1 week later.
Never said that all pastors in the pulpit were hoes. I said that there were hoes in the pulpit, which means some of them jokers are hoes. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
That's not what you said. You said hoes in the pulpit.
Yes.
You didn't specify. And now you're leaving it up for people to make determinations of the fact that is it some of them, is it all of them? Now you want to clean it up 2 weeks later.
Well, let me ask you this.
We can't
Did I
win
lie?
out here.
Did I lie? Did I lie when I said there were hoes in the pulpit? No, I ain't lying.
Some.
Yeah,
Not all.
you're right about that. That's
There's
some.
a difference. There's a difference.
But
And
again,
you should have
did I lie?
clarified 2 weeks ago.
But did I lie? That's all I'm gonna say. Did I lie?
Nah.
Audience, did I lie? That's all I'm gonna say.
Listen, y'all, as you can tell, welcome to the Pastor Study Hill Smooth 88.1 HOV IR Radio, right here on Facebook Live. We still arguing. We still fussing from 2 weeks ago. We're glad that you're tuning in with us. We were talking about 2 weeks ago the double standards that sometimes, Pastor Ray, we talk about from pastors and things that we see happening, and we're still having this discussion in real time. Y'all see, we still going at it. Even when the show ended, we've been talking for 2 weeks and still talking about it off the air. So we back on the air. We're glad that you're with us. We got Pastor Law that's with us today, who actually, y'all, let's give it up for him. He's been reelected again to another 4-year term as the Commonwealth Attorney of the City of Hampton. I just want to publicly say he ran unopposed, so I voted for him. So that means my vote got him in. That's all I'm gonna say. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, he owed me some favors. Is all I got to say.
You my
You know what I'm
brother.
saying?
And you my brother. You supposed to vote for me. That's
It only
fair.
took one vote to get him in. You know what I'm saying? So we just want to say that. We got Bishop Ray Johnson of Dominion Outreach Worship Center. We got our producer extraordinaire, Brother Jason Covington, who's in the building with us also. Our ladies are taking care of their business. They're not with us. Shout out Delegate Marcia Price. She also won her election, so she's taking care of her responsibilities. Another 4-year term in the 95th District of House of Delegates. And then also, 2 years. I'm sorry, 2 years. But let me not prophesy here. 2 years that she's been appointed. And then also we have Alvian, who's not with us today. She's got special assignment duties. We can't even go into her stuff that she's doing. Super private, you know what I'm saying? Classified information. We can't even share what she got going on. But listen, Jay, I want to come to you, man, because I ain't even really wanting to listen to Pastor Law right now. You know, we talked about the fact that there's some double standards that's going on. Pastor Ray, we talked about it last time. Do you really feel this way, Jason, that there really are double standards, man? Or are you on the side of we are held to a higher standard and should be held to a higher standard?
You should be. I'm trying to temper my words. You should be held to a higher standard because you are preaching morality and ethics, and you're preaching the good news. You're preaching the gospel. It's very hard to, and I'm trying to tread lightly because Pastor Law been killing y'all for the last 2.5 weeks. You have to be careful. What I've noticed is majority of the pastors that preach and the things they talk about are the things they're struggling with privately. Instead of dealing with those things and trying to, get help for that, they push it under, and it manifests itself up to a certain standard and come to a different point. We've seen this play out so many times, so many times. But you can't preach God and preach the gospel and then go out here and, in the words of Pastor Law, be a hoe. You can't. You just can't do it. You just can't do it.
All right. So let me ask you this, and I'm not disputing that, by the way. Let me just go on record and say I'm not disputing that. But let the listening audience know, Jason, what is your official title at the church where you work?
Worship production director.
You are worship production director,
mm-hmm.
which means you make sure that the worship atmosphere in the building is where it needs to be. So that by the time Pastor Rob gets up to preach, the atmosphere has already been set and the people are already having their heart toward God. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my job.
Okay. So do you feel that you are called to the same standard of expectation that we are as pastors?
Absolutely,
Being
because
a faith leader?
yeah, absolutely. In some contexts and in some places, I'm referred to as a pastor. I may not be ordained, I may not be licensed, but it's nothing for me to be walking down the street and somebody say, they go Pastor Cub, or they go Pastor Jason, or that's PJ. But I'm different. I come from a different school. I am of the agrinuciousness of a way that you have to carry yourself the way you would want anybody else to carry themselves. Like, I'm not gonna be out here with a girlfriend and have a wife. It don't line up. It don't line up with what I'm talking about. You're not gonna see me, like, I'm very careful, even when I meet with my volunteers. You're not gonna see me out here meeting with a bunch of women by myself, because the appearance of it looks crazy. So yes, I am held to a higher standard. Even what I say about politics, or what I say about current events, I got to make sure that if it doesn't line up with scripture, I don't say it. Or if I wouldn't say it from the stage or from the pulpit, I don't say it publicly, and I don't do it publicly.
So here's my second question. Do you feel that if you fell from grace, that you would receive the same reaction from the people as me as a senior pastor?
Probably not. I think that's apples and oranges.
Not. So now it's apples and oranges, but first you said you feel like you're held to the same standard.
Yeah, but the reality of it is, people not looking at me the same way they'll look at you or Bishop Ray. If I go out here and I do something crazy, it's like, he spazzed out, he wilding out. But if I was a pastor and leader of a church, I would be held to the same regard.
And that's the point I'm trying to make. So you have a very vital responsibility at your church to set the atmosphere for worship, right? The only thing you're not doing is preaching the word. But what you're telling me is you don't feel that if something happened, if you did something wrong, the reaction and response to what you did would be the same as me, because I preached the word, even though you set the atmosphere for me to preach the word when it's my time.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
I don't think that's what he said.
That's exactly what he said.
Well, no. I think what he's saying is that you're the leader. You're the top floor. You're the leader. And so as a result of that, people have a perception of you as the leader versus the perception that they have with him, and they see him as a pastor. So yes, he has that standard and they look to him to walk in that same level of holiness. But because you are the senior leader, that it doesn't get any higher in your particular organization, then there's going to be a sense of hurt that's going to probably be deeper because it's actually the senior leadership. That's what I got.
So let me ask you, you are a licensed minister.
Yes.
Ordained minister,
yes.
Correct? Right?
Yes.
Do you feel you are held to the same standard as me or your bishop, Bishop McBeth?
I'm held to the same standard, but I say this: the fall from grace or the response from individuals, if there was a fall from grace, would absolutely be different than it would be from any senior pastor, whether it be you, my bishop, Ray, any senior pastor, because I'm not the senior leadership. And I'll tell you why. Because when someone joins the church, typically they're not joining the church because of me. They're joining the church many times because of what they perceive about the senior leadership. As a result of that, there is a certain perception and a certain commitment that they're making, not just to the church, but to that senior leadership. And sometimes people get it twisted concerning the difference between the church of the Lord Jesus Christ and their pastor. They're two separate entities. They're not one and the same. That's why you got the God complexes going on in the church. And that's why people love their pastor like they will love their own child. And sometimes it's idolatry. And so as a result of that, Pastor, I think the response from the people will absolutely be different because they don't see me and don't love me to the same level that they will love the senior leadership or the senior pastor.
And that's the problem, as I am saying to you. That's the problem in the church. And let me just take you back, Pastor Law, to the Old Testament for a minute, because this is where you like to go.
This is where I like to go.
In the book of Joshua, there was a situation that was going on where God was leading the people. And all of a sudden, they went to a particular city to defeat it. They had previous victories, easy victories. They were God was giving them everything. But then there was one city that had a small group of people, right? And the Israelites got soundly defeated, and they couldn't understand why.
Sitting in the camp.
Right? And so God said they're sin in the camp, right? And so then the people started looking around, and they started saying, who was it that committed the sin, right? And they started with leadership, and they went all the way down, and it ended up being a man named Achan, who wasn't in leadership, who wasn't a pastor, but he took something that didn't belong to him. And once it was revealed that Achan, who was an ordinary person that committed the sin, then they had to deal with Achan.
And what did they do, Pastor?
Huh?
What did they do, Pastor?
They got rid of him.
And who else?
Right? So hold on. So here's my point. My point is, while everybody's looking at the pastor, right? And making sure that the pastor's upholding his or her responsibilities, which they should. Ain't nobody looking at what the members are doing, because to God, whether you are the pastor or the member, you are held to a standard of holiness. But what we see is there is a disparity in terms of the reactions and the fallouts of what happens in the church. Let me give you another example of this. So in our church, I don't handle the money.
Smart.
I don't sign no checks. I don't do none of that, right? But I find it interesting that when service is over, you're gonna look in the pocket spot of my pocket spot, and you're gonna see what I'm driving. But does anybody look at the person who's signing the checks to see what they drive? Ain't nobody looking at them. Ain't nobody. Hold on. Ain't nobody looking to see if what they drive all of a sudden, what they came in with when they first got here versus what they driving now. And I don't even know. And so what happens, Tom, is when everybody else gets a new car, God has blessed them.
That's right. When
we get something new, all right, what did they steal? Who they take money from?
But that's not everybody. Just like you said, all pastors are not hoes in the pulpit. All members are not the same either.
And most people do not understand the prosperity of the pastor unless they feel it had to happen on the backs of members who they had to take money from. Who they had to take the.
I can't give you that. I can't give you that.
Pastor Ray, help me, please.
I can't give you that. And I'm gonna tell you why I can't give you that. I can't give you that because well, maybe, you know what? Let me just say this. Maybe that's just the circle of people I tend to hang around, because I don't hang in circles where, first of all, they're pastor bashing, and the people I hang with, only a couple of them are pastors, and the rest of them are not. And I don't hang in those circles. because the reality of it is this: you should be walking in blessing. The Bible talks about giving double honor. And so you should be blessed. And who God has blessed can nobody curse. So guess what? I don't want to go to a church if my pastor got to catch the bus to church because he can't afford his car. Because the first thing I'm going to say is the God that you're serving, talking about he should supply all my needs according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus. You don't know that God. The God that you serve that said that own the cattle on 1,000 hills. You don't know that God. Come, preach about it and y'all hearing and y'all amen to me. I'm just saying. You don't know that.
Here's what I'm saying. You are the exception to the rule, is what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is there are a lot of people who, when as long as the members get blessed, it is God. But when you see the pastor pull up in something new, you see the pastor got a new suit on, got a fresh pair of shoes, whatever the case might be, there is something in the back of the mind because there's already this stigma that's already established with the church that all pastors want is people's money. And all they want is that, just bring your tithes so the pastor can get paid. So if you see me roll up in a Benz, it's because I had to do something suspect to the congregation to get the money. But if you see somebody else roll up in the same Benz, it's because God blessed them. And this is what happens. And so these are some of the standards. And Bishop, help me please, because maybe Pastor Lord Jason don't see it like that.
Look.
Let Bishop say.
Let me just to that point. I'm just to the point of double standards for the purpose of the show. I remember when I bought my first BMW, and because I pastored downtown, and because of who I serve and who I am with, a very noted leader in our area told me, don't drive that car to church. Drive your other car to church. Now, it's well noted that when I first got started, you know, Ton, as you're talking about, you don't muzzle out the ox that treads the corn. We know the scriptures and all that kind of stuff. But now for those of us who've been behind the scenes a while, we know the Pareto principle, that you got 20% of the people that give 80% of the resources, and that same 20% of the people do the 80% of the work. It is a consistent standard thing that is there. But this noted leader said to me, don't drive that car to church, drive your other one. And I had to buy the car that I bought because the reverse pin went out. And the deacons around here could tell you I was reversing. Now this is of course 15 years ago. I'm backing out of the church parking lot with my foot out the door, reversing, trying to get out because the reverse pin was gone. But I couldn't drive that BMW that I brought for 6 months because of the idea of I'm stealing money from the church. When the church was first growing, the rumor on me in the city was he got to be selling drugs out of the back of the church, because they would come and pull up to the back, pick up the money and leave from here and go deposit it directly to the bank. But the only reason why you got an armored truck coming is because you hustling and selling drugs. It's a double standard when it comes to us in terms of spiritual leadership. Now, on the other point, because I stepped out just for a second because what you guys were talking about in regards to the moral issues, Ton, I will agree with you in this point. I will agree with you and say that yes, we should, as spiritual leaders, be held to a higher standard, that we are examples to other people, that we become models for others to follow. But the scripture says, follow our faith. That's what it says over in Hebrews. You follow the faith of other leaders. You're not necessarily following their person. But what happens with us, to the point of Achan, and to the point of other references that Pastor Swan is talking about, people tend to follow our person as if our person is what makes our faith. No, it's our faith of what makes our person. And to his point, both Achan and the persons in his family were taken out because God sees us corporately as well as individually. But when he comes to deal with us, he deals with us corporately. And what happens is that pastors, all of us tend to get a bad rap, more so than other professions and other areas of sections in life. We do.
No,
I will add to that. I'll add to that.
No,
The politicians make it a little bit. The public servants make it a little bit. But there is no other profession that gets the gauntlet of the bad apple that spoils the entire bunch, like the preachers. It's the reason why people won't go to.
Right,
I'm
Jay.
telling you.
That's right, Jay.
People don't go to church because of the idea of church hurt, how they treated me in my, how the preacher treated me in my last church. Both Pastor Swan and I have sat here consistently and said to you, we can tell you stories of people that attended our church for years before they joined. Well, why didn't you? It's 3 years later. Why didn't you join? Because I wanted to see who you were sleeping with. I wanted to see how you was handling the money. I wanted to see if what else was going on with you and what else was taken with you. When you go to your doctor's office and you are sick and you need surgery, I wish I could put my credentials up on the wall. Look, you can see some of them right there. You make sure that doctor has passed the Board of Medical Examiners. They've been licensed by the state to provide that whatever diagnosis, whatever surgery is going to be given to you, and then you go to them without question because you're sick, and you need some type of medicine or some type of surgery so that you can get well. With us, that's not the case.
Jason, let me hold on. Jason, let me get some of that. Let me get some of that.
Let me finish, Tom. Let me finish. We can have the credentialing, we can have the example, and we can have the modeling. And Swan, let me add this with it. And we can have the history, and we still get side-eyed way more than any other profession. And for us, therein lies, that's where the double standard is.
When you came out your mouth and said that your profession is the worst profession when it comes to people side-eyeing you, you sounded like the teacher on Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah. I'm sorry. I just couldn't get with that.
Absolutely not.
You talking to no. You talking to an attorney. People have dogged out lawyers forever and a day. Called us ambulance chasers. Called us shysters. All about money. And then on top of that, you talking to an attorney who is also an elected official, and don't nobody like politicians. Let's just keep that real.
Okay, but Tom, I said public servants, all this. So you got the public servant and the bishop. Which one gets much more ridicule?
The public servant all day. Because I'm gonna tell you something. Lord. There are people.
I need somebody to put it in the chat on the feed. Put it in the chat on the feed.
I tell you this, Ray. I'll put it this way. Have you ever met a group of individuals who ever worshiped a public figure like a politician? No. But you got a gazillion of people that worship their pastor. And there go your issue. Because they worship you, when you fall, they take it as a personal hit because they were committing idolatry to begin with. That's your issue.
Okay, so now wait.
Some of you, let me go there. Let me go there. Some of you, not Kevin, but some of your colleagues set it up so that they can have that God complex and allow their people, their members, to worship them. And you know I ain't lying. And they let them worship them. Come on, you got an offering. You got an offering for the church anniversary. You got an offering because you preach good on that week. You got an offering
because not the norm.
You wore a brown suit. I'm just saying.
That is absolutely not the norm, Tom.
It happens.
You got out here who serving years with no check, no salary,
I didn't say all of you. I didn't say all of you. I said there are some of you. Listen to the word. There are some of you who do that. There's some of you that do that. Ray, you can say what you want to say. You want is what I told you. You can say what you want to say. You know there are plenty of people that worship their pastor. You won't find anybody worshiping a politician. They may like them, they may even love them, but they won't worship them. They won't create idolatry concerning a politician. So you can't play that card, that trick pony, saying that y'all are the worst ones that's criticized. Because if anybody is beloved, people most times beloved their pastors. And unfortunately,
not in this culture, not
they
today.
confused. They get it confused. They take it to the extreme. And because they beloved their pastor, unfortunately, they put them on a pedestal that you guys got to be perfect. And that's not right. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's right. Please hear that. I'm not saying that's right.
That's the first time we heard that, Cat? That's the first time we heard that, ain't it?
No, you heard it before. No, you heard it before. You just got caught up in your feelings. Wah. That's why you can't hear nothing, because you speaking another language.
We got to keep going. Listen, we just tuned it in. We having a great conversation about double standards in ministry, what standard has been called. Jason, go ahead on, jump in, man. I know you have.
Say it, Jason. Tell the truth, Jason. Free yourself.
Hey, Ray, you were doing good when you in the beginning, but when you jumped to say that y'all are the most, for lack of a better word, hated or whatever, like, nah, not even close. And here's the thing. Here's what we're not talking about.
Let the man talk.
Here's what we're not talking about. A lot of y'all that be going through the stuff, it's of your own making. It's of your own doing.
Boom.
It's not because you doing all you know. You serving God as hard as you can. You out here, you slipping and you jerking around, and then you get caught, and now you like, oh, don't follow me. Follow Christ as I follow him. That's when y'all want to use that scripture. But you don't want to use, let me cover my eyes. You don't want to use that scripture, not you, Kevin, not you, Bishop Johnson, not you, Ton. The other people y'all are talking about, it's so good when they out here doing their thing. But as soon as they get caught, I'm a man like everybody else. I put my pants on one leg at a time. Or the women, I put my blouse on and I button it up. Because we equal opportunity here. We believe in equity. So here's the thing. Take all of it. Don't throw it out with the key out with the bathwater. Ride with all of it. Y'all just woke like Ray. I couldn't believe you said woe is me. When you said woe is me,
woe is me.
Even Kevin was like,
let the record state.
Woe is me, Jay. That's what he said. Woe is me.
As your attorney, please don't say that. Let me speak for you.
Wah. Here he comes. Here it comes.
No,
Here it comes.
I didn't say that. Yes, there are some things that are crazy being a pastor. Like I mentioned last time, people going outside, looking at what you drive, looking you up and down when you walk into church, seeing what you wear, people driving up to your house to see where you live. All that stuff is real. It is also true. It's also true, Pastor Law, that you're right. Some of that stuff is pastor worship, and that is a lot of stuff in the church that should not be. There's no question about that. But what I am saying is one of the challenges is that why do you, being the member, expect to live your salvation through me? That's what I am saying.
That's fair.
Because you want me to be the model of perfection.
That's fair.
You want me to be sinless and holy and never fall, while you can do whatever you want.
That's fair.
And this is the challenge, because Jesus said foxes have, I know you don't read New Testament, Tom, but let me tell you what Jesus said. Foxes have holes and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Which means that for us, there is no anonymity. Whatever we go through, we got to go through it publicly. Right? So if our kids got issues, we got to deal with it publicly. If there's stuff going on in our family, we got to deal with it publicly. That's the thing that separates us from y'all, is the fact
Really?
that you can go home.
Really?
Hold on, Tom. You can go home, Jason. Even if you are a worship leader, you can still go home and privately deal with your stuff. Right?
Really?
Because in the church,
Really? You
Now,
saying
Todd,
that's what separates you from us? Do you forget what I do?
I am talking about in the church. I'm not talking about your role as Commonwealth
Well,
attorney.
I'm saying you're making a statement as if we can't relate to what you go through.
You can relate, but ain't nobody. Listen, hold on, Ray. But nobody at church, Ton, is going outside after the service and looking at what you drive.
You sure about that?
Nobody cares.
When you come out of court, they don't care what you drive. They
No.
say you drive.
He's talking about the church.
I'm talking about.
He's talking about the church.
I'm not talking about your role as Commonwealth attorney.
Right. He's talking about the church. Now, Ray, answer that question. You sure about that?
Because, but see,
No. Answer the question.
Wait.
You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth.
You both sides, because you lead elder in your church. Past a preacher for 25 years licensed, you see what we go through behind the scenes. So you with us to a degree, but then in a minute, you're not the senior dude. So when you're not the senior dude, you don't get the same scrutiny that the senior dude does.
No, I don't.
When you are on a stack.
No,
That's
I don't.
what Kevin is saying.
No, I don't.
And look, we understand it, because I get it. Pastors are called to a higher standard. We understand that. What I'm saying, though, today is for people who come to church, stop trying to live your salvation through me. The Bible says work out your own salvation in fear and trembling. And what we're also saying is, when we as senior pastors have to experience things, we experience it publicly. Now I'm going to touch on this. We can't go there fully, but we all know and are aware of the situation of a particular church in Virginia Beach, of a particular pastor that allegedly got caught in a situation. And what we talked about off air, and we're not going to get into the details of it, but we talked about off air was that there was 17 people allegedly that were involved in that particular situation. But you do not hear of the 16 others that were involved. You only hear of one that was allegedly involved. So in this case, Pastor Law, in this case, Jason, you could have been there too, and nobody would have known.
Not me. Not me.
From the church perspective, not talking about, I'm talking church only for you. I know you wear many hats, right? But I'm talking about here, Pastor Ray and I, is front page news, is on the news, it's all of that. For you all, maybe.
But can I jump in real quick? I disagree. I fundamentally disagree with that, and here's the reason why. It's if they found out that I was worship leader, worship pastor, and I was out there doing what this person was accused of, I would be front page with the other 16. It's not just about with this right here.
Yes, you would.
It's the morality that goes along with it. I think that's what we're missing.
Yes.
Right. So if I was involved, so I heard you say something earlier. You said that when we go through some certain things, we're not putting the public light. When I went through my divorce, I went through that publicly. I tried my best to be private with that. And the church drugged me in. I like, hey, XYZ. No, I'm not talking about that here. Like, I wanted to step away from ministry. I wasn't allowed to step away from ministry. I had to go through all that. A separation, divorce, me reconciling myself, get myself back together to where I am now. All that was public. Now, I give it to you. It would not have been the same.
In the sense.
Go ahead.
Public in the sense of your church, your local assembly.
Right.
Not public in the sense of the community.
But it depends on what sector we talk about. It depends on what sector we talked about. Because some people, when they found out I got divorced, when they found out I was getting divorced, they were hurt because they were doing the same thing with me, what Pastor Lawson ain't doing with y'all, which I don't agree with. If I just because my marriage ain't work out, your marriage ain't got nothing to do with my marriage. You love your wife, treat your wife good. Y'all gonna be straight. Mine just ain't work out because two people decided to go their separate ways. But people were like, well, if he can't make it, then surely I can't. I'm the least of these. Don't you look at me and try to be like me. I'm the least.
And, and you made a statement.
But see, what you're doing right now is what you saying we shouldn't do earlier. Well, when we get caught, right? Because if you are a leader, you gotta expect that some of that is going to happen, right?
Well, so here's the thing. I expect it. I expect it. I don't have a problem with it. I've lived my life under a scrutiny for years and years, for decades. So I'm good with that. Because here's the thing. I expect that when I signed up, that's what I signed up for. When I signed up to be a minister, when I signed up to be a children's pastor, when I was doing that for years, when I signed up to become an attorney, when I signed up to just be an assistant, you live your life under public scrutiny, period. I ain't complaining about it. It's what it is. What I'm saying to you is what it is with y'all too. Y'all can expect to have a separate standard that is different from any other public entity. You're a public entity when you are a pastor of a church, particularly the senior pastor. You're a public entity. And to answer your question about if there was Joe Blow in the church, and particularly you use Jason in particular as the worship leader or over the worship, if they had found out, like he said, that that's what he did for a living, he absolutely would have been on front page. And not only that, he would have been on TV, because I've seen plenty of articles about youth pastors, youth leaders, just teachers. And y'all seen it too on paper, in the paper, and y'all seen it on TV, on the news, saying they are accused of molesting someone, sleeping with somebody, doing this, doing that. And so it don't have to just be the senior pastor. They're looking at the fact that you are supposed to be a symbol of morality.
There's
no question about that.
And I don't disagree. I don't disagree. My point is, hold on, right? My point is that for the 17 that got allegedly involved, why is it that the public only knows of one?
Well, maybe they're a bunch of heathens. Who knows? I'm just
yeah. So, no.
That's my point. If it's the custodial care worker, the shipyard worker, the cashier, the secretary for the administrator at a bank, those persons who make up the 16 are a part of the same issue. They should be in the paper just like the pastor should, because of the egregiousness of the crime.
But the church didn't do that.
That does not happen.
But the church didn't do that. The media made that choice not to print their names.
Okay.
And because they're selling papers. Come on, they're selling papers, they're selling TV ratings. And so for them, they're going to go for the big fish. They're going to go for someone that's going to have public identity or name recognition. They're going to go for that person. That's why they went with that dude.
Therein lies the double standard. That's where the real quote unquote garden tools are that you mentioned, that you're talking about.
Hoes. That's the word I use, hoes. But see, again, what I'm saying
I can't use that term, Kevin.
Or whatever. Okay, whatever. I'm gonna leave that alone. Because you just want on me. So I'm gonna leave that alone. So I'm just gonna leave that alone. I'm just gonna say this. I'm just gonna say this. Again, we're all public figures. Because we're all public figures, we all have that same level of scrutiny. I'm not saying it's fair. I promise you I'm not saying it's fair. I'm just saying it's what it is. And because it's what it is, you just gonna have to just either say, hey, I'm gonna be what God called me to be. I'm gonna honor what he called me to minister and to shepherd over. And the rest, I'm just gonna have to leave to him to defend my character, to defend my honor, and whatever else that come with it. Because at the end of the day, You can't trace no lie. You can't trace no rumor. It's gonna be what it is. It's gonna be what it is.
And look, that's what we've been saying for 25 years. It is what it is. We know that, right? We know that. The point I'm trying to make is going back to the 17, allegedly of one. But what if one of the other 16 were involved in church somewhere? You don't even know, because the media has decided. And in normal cases, the public just say, well, okay, I know one. And then this is why this again feeds. So you know of the one allegedly. So now the unbeliever is going to say, see, this is why I don't go to church. This is why I don't fool with it, because you got this stuff going on. And then you also got pastors and all they want is money. But aren't other people doing some stuff?
But you never hear about what the other people are doing. You only hear about what the pastor's doing allegedly, which is also quite strategic, but that's a whole nother show.
Okay.
Well, we understand. Let me be clear.
So let me help you out with something. So I'm about to put to bed what you've been crying about. If you go to the local news in Chesterfield County, the thing says, the headline, Chesterfield police arrest 17 men and online child sex sting. And they list each and every one of them, their address and their charge and their age. Yes, they do. Cause see, I'm an attorney. I do research.
There's not a whole article about all 16, but there's a whole article news affiliate about one, Tom.
You said they would never know their names. That was your original argument. Rewind. Get me the court reporter. Get me the court reporter. You said that they would never look. Cam, quiet now.
I'm not quiet.
Okay, all right. But y'all said you would never know their names.
You said they are not just the same level of scrutiny as the one. That's what we
here's
said.
my issue. Here's my issue. Let's go back to the example we use it with a doctor. You talk about you go to the doctor, you got the credentials on the wall and all that kind of stuff. Right. But everybody in this conversation know if it was a doctor that was raunchy, that didn't do good work, we would not go to them, because their reputation precedes them. That's their livelihood. Us as being clergymen, you all as being pastors, you can't do certain things. You can't go out here and screw people and then get mad when people call you out on it, because you're preaching about fornication and adultery. So you can't preach about fornication and adultery and then go out here and screw folk. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't be a doctor and a plastic surgeon and botching surgeries. You can't be botching booties and the booty's exploding. We're not going to you. You can't be a preacher and say, God said the bed is undefiled, get married, and then the next day you get caught doing something with your pants down. And then you get mad. It's a double standard. It's not a double standard. You are preaching morality and you're preaching the good news. You're telling people to live right and you being a hoe. You can't do it. You can't do it.
But Jay, so you get to set the atmosphere, and then after the atmosphere is set, you can go set it at home.
No, because here's the thing. If we go back Old Testament, if we go back Old Testament, which Pastor Law loves, and we will not discuss the situation, but with what we're talking about, that individual went back to their pulpit and did an altar call. You can't do that. You can't do that. You just can't do that. You can't do that.
I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all got me in tears up here. I hope y'all watching this on YouTube, because I'm done. I'm just done. Jason, I'm done.
You see they quiet. Both of them are quiet now because Ray was in there hollering. Ray was hollering. It's a double standard. It's a double standard. Now I tell you, y'all heard, you like.
No, what we're saying, that's why I'm quiet.
Oh God. I'm telling you, I'm done, y'all. Y'all won. Look, I'm done. I'm throwing the towel.
We can't use that kind of language.
I'm done.
Well, excuse me.
We gotta go to the FCC on y'all side.
You can't
pastors ain't over here, but the FC, Jay Lang gonna have to call the FCC on y'all, cause y'all say anything.
No, everything I said is PG. Here's a better. You cannot be a physician rather, and cutting on people and stuff coming out after your surgery, and people will come back to you. They're not going to do that. You can't be a police officer and arresting people for DUIs, and you drunk every weekend and you hanging out. You cannot be a physical therapist and you're not doing your job. You can't do it.
The pastor, if he does his job in terms of the execution of his delivery, I wasn't gonna say I see Jesus like Jason was saying, but yet has an issue.
Kevin.
The scrutiny is not the same for the police officer or the public servant.
It is. Ray, come on. Ray, cut your camera off. Cut your camera off. Cut it off again. Cut it off. You know, we talking about the scrutiny is not. But see, let's be both sides.
If a white 16, if a white
individuals
ain't got no articles and stories on them, that one individual does.
Can I tell you about this article? In this article, they do not tell you that this individual is a pastor. They matter of fact, they list him like they list everybody else by their name, their age, their address, and the charge, and that's all they say. They don't point him out. And so again, it's all about media. That's, but you know what? I'm sure it's another one if I were to look it up. But I'm not going to go through all that because your argument has no merit, and so I'm not going to go through that. It's flawed. It's flawed. It's what? It's flawed.
The way we first learned about this was not from the other 16. We learned about this because of the one. And the point that we're making is, if we're going to learn about it, list the other 16 in addition to the one at the same time.
But they had already
done that because of the double standard that exists.
But they had already done that, is what I'm saying. You have a issue with the media license to do what they want to do concerning how they report their news. But that has zero to do with a core issue, which is you are a public official. You may not be a public official in the sense of an elected official, but you are a public figure. And if you are a public figure, there is going to be a certain scrutiny that's going to be assigned to you and to any other public figure. That's just the reality.
So let me ask Jason and Anton this question, Pastor Love. So is your argument that the level of scrutiny that we as pastors have is the same level of scrutiny that you have or any other leader in any other profession?
I would tell you the level of scrutiny that I have is probably greater than the level of scrutiny you have, given the fact that I am both a pastor or a minister and I am an elected official. And so, yeah, absolutely, I would say that.
But you're because I'm asking you, take off your pastor role. Do you think the level of scrutiny that you have
as Commonwealth attorney,
just as a Commonwealth attorney?
Oh yeah, all day long. Oh yeah, all day long. Oh yeah, all day long.
Jason, do you feel that your level of scrutiny as worship leader is the same as a pastor?
It depends on the context.
What I will say to you is this: people are probably not as passionate concerning their criticism or their scrutiny of me as they probably would be of their pastor, given the fact that ain't nobody gonna be putting a Godplex on me or putting and I made a word Godplex, but ain't nobody gonna be putting a Godplex on me or is going to be elevating me to that level where there's going to be some idolatry. You may have maybe a couple that might do that, but overall, you won't find that typically with any public official that is an elected official, simply because people tend to not trust public officials. They may like you, and they may also vote for you, and they may agree with what you are doing. But if you do anything wrong, the first thing that's going to come to their head is, or to their mind, or even to their mouth, is going to be, well, what do you expect? They're a public official. All public officials lie. All elected people lie. That's what they say. And so as a result of that, you have that population that, of course, you got some that's not like that. You got a whole lot of people that's not like that. Just like you got a whole lot of people who are not like that for you guys. It's just the arena we are in. Each arena has its specific issues and stigmas and perceptions that we all have to face. And so you know that when you sign up for it, you know that when you say yes to the calling, that this is part of the stigma. And if you didn't know, you found out after the first 6 months. I guarantee you that.
We signed up
Jason,
all that,
Jason, you said it depends.
Yeah, it depends.
So, how so?
It depends on, like, if I'm just a worship leader leading worship, like it's not that stigma. But if I'm a worship pastor, or if I'm a creative director or something like that, that I'm speaking to people live, and I'm pretty much pastoring and shepherding people, then yes, I'm held to the same account, because I'm instructing them, or I'm encouraging them to live a certain way. I'm not just singing a song and like pointing stuff. I'm singing a song, but after hours, I'm counseling people. I'm having conversations. Like, I'm helping them, trying to help them live their best life to Christ. Now, I can't do that, and I'm out here with little boys or little girls. It don't add up. Or I can't do that. And here's the thing: people be out there drinking, but if they see me with a glass of wine, what's wrong with him? So the Bible does also say, don't be a stumbling block to his people. I read my Bible, unlike other people. I read my Bible, even though some of y'all don't think I read. So it depends on the context. If we're talking about worship leader, not so much. But we're talking about some worship pastor or someone that's shepherding people, absolutely. But I do agree that you all, because of you all are senior leaders, and I don't agree why people putting y'all on pedestals, but they do. It comes with the territory, especially in the Black culture. The Black pastors, they are a sign of of prestige. I don't think it's right, because Swan, you and Ray, y'all just the boys from down the street. I respect y'all, but I don't put y'all up. Y'all can't make no mistakes. Y'all can come to me and say that y'all, whatever, and it stays here, because I understand that. But see, here's the other issue: leaders can't talk down. They can't be with their sheep. They gotta talk on the same level. So Swan can't talk to his members about his issues. It should be someone else in senior leadership, or his wife or something like that. You can't have these conversations with your people, because it'll never turn out right. I don't talk to my volunteers. I do, but I don't tell them if me and Michelle are having issues, or we had a disagreement, or something I'm struggling with, because they'll never let me live that down, because, well, if he's struggling, then it's okay for me to struggle. And that's not what it is. It's not okay for you to struggle. Like, live your own soul salvation. I agree 100%. Swan, your wife even talked about that the other week on our feed. It's a level of maturity that Anton was speaking about. And that is true. But we have to be careful with just saying it's a double standard, because it's not a double standard. It's the standard. You need to live up to the standard or leave. Just like, again, if I was a physician and I had janky practice, you wouldn't come to me, no matter how many degrees I had behind my name. It's the same thing as being a pastor. You could be a pastor, but if you're not living nothing, don't nobody want to come to your church. That should be the core of why people don't want to do it. All the other stuff is janky, but I digress, because we got 2 minutes left.
No, I mean, I agree with everything that y'all said, right? I think the difference is that pastors, other than doctors, doctors, you go to them for healthcare. When you look at a pastor, you're looking at them for morality, for ethics, for the person that you trust to believe is going to make the right decision. Problem with that is that we wrestle with sin just like everybody else. So there will be times where we will not make the best moral decision. There will be times where ethically we won't make the best decision. And that's where the challenge comes in. And yes, when you put us at a place that's so far above where you think you are, then the fall from grace is large. And the media, yes, can play on that, and the media can sell papers and get TV ratings behind it. And that's
we are in agreement. We are in agreement. Look at we ended the show in agreement.
Yeah,
we are.
That's how we're supposed to do it, because there's too much shooting and killing out here for people not to see that we can get together. And I just want the listening audience to know that Pastor Ray and I, we don't like Pastor Jason at all, but we love them. And those are our brothers. We love them dearly. Y'all don't need to understand. This is a brotherhood, and the sisters, we family. And so this is what family do. We hash it out, but at the end, it's all in love. And so on that note, we got to roll. Thank y'all for tuning in today. It's been a great show. Until next time, be blessed and be a blessing to someone else. This is Smooth 88.1 WHOV, iHeartRadio, and right here, y'all, on Facebook Live.